Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Pat, will you please call the roll?
Yes, good morning. City of Avondale, Harold Seguina.
Present.
City of Buckeye, John Willett. City of Chandler, Ryan Peters.
Present.
City of El Mirage, Amber Wakeman.
Present.
Town of Fountain Hills, Dave Trimble.
Here.
Town of Gilbert, Jason Hafner.
Present.
City of Glendale, Kevin Phelps.
Here.
City of Goodyear, Kenny Knutson.
Here.
Maricopa County, Jason Matthews. City of Mesa, Jody Sorrell. Present. City of Peoria, Chris Hallett. City of Phoenix, Mario Paniagua.
Here.
Town of Queen Creek, Shay Yoakum.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Mark Milanchenko. City of Surprise, Kristen Taylor. She will be joining as soon as I send her the WebEx link. City of Tempe, Rosa Inchausti. Present. City of Tolleson, Gabriel Elias. He may be joining shortly. And ADOT Shotwan Reed. Chair, we are ready to proceed.
All right, thank you, Pat. Just a reminder for virtual attendees, please mute your computer microphone or phone. And then if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, please type your comment in the box and it'll be read aloud and answered, or raise your hand. Item 1, public comment. The public will be provided with an opportunity at this time to address the committees for non-agenda items and all action agenda items for the joint RPTA and Valley Metro Rail agendas. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker. Unless I allow more at my discretion, a total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. Are there any comments, Pat?
No, sir, not today.
All right, thank you. Item 2, CEO report. Jessica Mefford Miller will provide this report.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I have just a couple of very brief updates for you this morning. As Pat is moving on the slides, we'll move through this very quickly. This past Saturday evening, we had the honor of celebrating the Women's Transportation Seminar 40th Anniversary Award and Scholarship Gala. Women's Transportation Seminar is an organization that promotes the inclusion of women in the transportation industry as well as men. We've got a lot of male participants. I've been involved with WTS for about 25 years now, various chapters across the country. And I have to say, the Phoenix chapter, I think, outdoes them all, including the number of mentoring programs, scholarship programs, and development programs that are happening here locally, as well as national programs. Our Northwest Phase 2 received the Innovative Project of the Year for 2025 on Saturday evening. It is continuing next slide, please, to bring in the awards. I was also honored to be part of a group of distinguished women who received a group award for Women of the Year. And the focus of this award was the passage of Prop 479, which recognized the contributions of Governor Katie Hobbs, Mayor Kate Gallego, Jennifer Toth, the director of the Arizona Department of Transportation, Audra Custer Thomas, who's chief of staff at MAG and really championed the Momentum Plan. So wonderful opportunity. And it's remarkable to be amongst a group of all female leads in roles like that. So interesting. Northwest Phase 2, again, racking up the awards. Northwest Phase 2 was recognized first in the Southwestern region by the Engineering News Record, which is a national publication focused on transportation infrastructure. It then advanced to the national awards, where we won the best project of the year in the airports and transit category. We were also one of 3 finalists for the overall project of the year. That's all projects, all geographies in the U.S. We came in second. We didn't clinch the title on that, but such tremendous recognition for this project. There's a lot of innovation there, including fiber reinforced concrete in the track bed, the elevated rail-only structure over the Inter 17 corridor, and the elevated station at Metro Center. So congratulations to the team. And our Chief of Capital Development, Trevor Cullen, and Deputy Chief Tony Santana were able to accept the award in New York last week. Looking ahead, couple of items of note. We'll be back for the board meeting on April 17th. I do want to know, we typically just focused on TMC board meetings in this slide, but we do have a financial working group scheduled for April the 15th. I'm going to reference that when we get to the budget point. So just make a note of that. That concludes my report. Any questions I may answer of the committees?
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, move on to item 3. Minutes from the March 5th TMC RMC meeting presented for approval. Are there any questions or any items that need to be pulled for separate discussion on these? Seeing none, I'm requesting a motion and a second to approve the March 5th, 2025 TMC RMC minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Item 4, job order contracts, expenditure authority increase. Jessica Medford-Miller, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to invite Trevor Collin, our Chief of Capital Development, to the podium to provide a presentation focused on extensions and increase in expenditure authority for a job order contract. Trevor is busy building things, not just rail expansions. Trevor, would you walk us through this, please?
Yeah, thank you, Jessica, and Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Our job order contracts serve to really deal with a lot of smaller in scope and scale projects, but very important. We entered a contract with 3 job order contractors back in January of 2024, Banachke Construction, SDB, and Stacy and Whitbeck. The term of that contract is 3 years plus 2 option years. I want to make clear that this action does not include the extension of option years. This action and this request before you is for additional expenditure authority. All 3 of those contracts operate under a cumulative $20 million limit. So they each don't have 20 million. All 3 operate under that one $20 million limit currently. Our task orders are FTA compliant. They are meant to be flexible. They're meant to be quick when the needs arise. The request before you is for an additional $19.7 million to complete the 3-year term of the base term. These are just pictures of some projects that we've done over the term of these contracts. We support both light rail infrastructure, streetcar, and bus work. They show completed projects. Some of them show projects in work, but they vary. They vary from concrete. They can be HVAC. They can be rail repairs. They can be landscaping replacement. They're very diverse in the nature of the work that's requested. One of the recent completions I'll point out is the Tempe Town Lake Bridge was long in need of a replacement of that lighting system, that art feature. We were able to complete that just at the end of last year. The projects also vary in size and complexity. The vast majority, it's kind of small to see, but the vast majority, that 47% of our projects are under $100,000. The next piece of the pie is between, pie chart here. Between 250 and 500. The green part is between 500 and $1 million, and the blue, which is the smallest, is between $1 million and $2.5 million. So over the course of, since we've entered this contract, we've done over 50 task orders to date. The majority of them are very small in nature, but we do sometimes have larger needs. As far as agency usage, the vast majority of them currently are for Valley Metro Rail. 4% currently are for the RPTA support. We do anticipate that need will slightly increase on the bus side as we look at some of our future needs. The breakdown of the math, we started with a contract authority of 20 million. To date, through March, we've executed $17.4 million in task orders. We anticipate through the term, through the base term, an additional $20 million in expenditures, and the math is all there. That's the basis for our request for an additional 19.7 to get us through that base term. Some of our anticipated future needs are listed out here. I won't name them all, but I will point out a few. We do have, we plan on utilizing job order contracting to build a park and ride in the town of Gilbert, which is a item that will be on the RPTA agenda today, an agreement related to that. We also have some electric bus charging infrastructure that we're planning on doing. And with those two projects, we anticipate that split between VMR and RPTA will be closer to 90-10, 90% VMR and 10% RPTA. We've also underway with two important studies with crime prevention through environmental design and collision reduction travel time. We anticipate that there will be projects that come out of those efforts that will utilize the JOC contracts. With that, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is before you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, I'll request a motion and a second to approve this item.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 5, travel and expenditures. Are there any questions from the committee on this item? It's for information only. Seeing none, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Are there any from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mesa would like to request a future agenda item on the closeout of Prop 400 and what that means for the RPTA and VMR as far as specifically with JE and the reserve funds.
Good idea. Are there any others? All right, hearing none, the next meeting of the TMC RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, May 7th at 11 a.m. This meeting is adjourned, and I will convene the April meeting of the Transit Management Committee. Item 1, consent agenda presented for action. Are there any questions or any items that need to be pulled for second or for separate discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll request a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 1A and 1C.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
To be clear, I've meant to say 1A through 1C, not and. All those it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Item 2, Gilbert Road Park and Ride Design Construction Funding Agreement. Jessica Miller, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to clarify that this is an item requesting approval of entering into an agreement between Valley Metro and the town of Gilbert. Construction of the park and ride would actually be accomplished on the job order contract, which was just discussed. Should there be any questions about this item, Trevor Collin is here to address them.
Yep. Are there any, is there a presentation associated with that, or are we just moving to questions? Okay. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, I'll request a motion and second for the Board of Directors to execute the design construction funding agreement for the town of Gilbert Park and Ride project.
I'll make the motion.
Moved.
Jason Hafner, Town of Gilbert, second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 3, the Valley Metro RPTA fiscal year 26 preliminary operating and capital budget. Jeff, could you please introduce this item?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is now our third step in the budget progression process. For those of our members who are new, we do move through a progressive budget process, looking back on expenditures, discussing our base budget and continuing commitments. And now we are at the stage of our budget where we are discussing new initiatives in the draft FY26 budget. We will be coming back to the board with this content with a little bit of revisions. Just an update on what we've been doing. We've been meeting with city staff. We've shared the detailed initiative write-ups. We've received quite a lot of feedback from city staff, which we tried to incorporate into the initiative write-ups that you have in your packet today. I hope you've had the chance to review them. Great input. We're going to continue to meet with city staff. We've already identified some adjustments that we'll make. We weren't able to make any changes for the TMC RMC meeting today. However, we will be making adjustments in advance of that April 15th financial working group and the April 17th board. And then we'll be coming back to the board with a version of the full budget in the month of May. A couple of items that I want to note regarding the FY26 budget request for RPTA. Our request is $279 million. This is for the operating budget. This is an increase of $500,000 over the FY25 budget. So it's a 0.00179 budget increase. Of particular interest in our conversations with the member cities have been inclusion of additional personnel resources for RPTA. Just of note, all employees are RPTA employees. We do break out the funding across RPTA and Valley Metro Rail. Of those positions, which are 21, by the way, Mr. Kessler in his presentation is going to walk through some of that. I do want to note that 6 of those 21 positions fall under the category of insourcing. So functions that we're currently delivering through consultant services. For example, there's a capital development project manager. I don't want to steal Ken's thunder and walk through all of them that we're delivering today through consultants. There's a community engagement supervisor that is a consultant resource today. Outside of insourcing, there are 6 positions that I consider under the umbrella of expansion and right sizing on the rail side. So we have added positions to support our South Central extension, but we've got some critical functions, and I want to call out traction power in particular. That is woefully under-resourced. We've conducted peer reviews. Some of you were here with us when we conducted an operations and maintenance peer review in late spring, summer of 2022. We also conducted a safety and security peer review, and we found that we're missing depth in some of those critical areas. For the last 2.5 years, we have been taking vacancies from across the organization and converting them to areas where we knew we needed additional resources, namely transportation, maintenance, and safety. I'm all out of vacancies to convert. That being said, we're taking that feedback, we're sharpening our pencils, so you'll see revisions from us later this month. Now I want to turn it over to Ken Kessler to deliver a budget presentation, and I'll give you a little bit of a preamble as well when we get to the Valley Metro rail position. One other thing that city staff has asked, and I got hot off the press this morning, Ken and Tyler have done a fantastic job of being responsive to city requests, is indicating for all of the new initiatives and budget adds how they would be funded in terms of member city contributions, regional public transportation fund contributions, or capital fund contributions. None of the new positions in our PTA, which Ken's about to review, require member city contributions. Now it's different on Valley Metro Rail because we are prohibited from using our regional transportation funds, our PTF funds, for rail operations. We can use just a little bit of those PTF funds for rail system state of good repair, but not our day-to-day operations like that traction power function I mentioned. So without further preamble, Ken, would you walk us through?
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I don't really have much of a preamble because Jessica basically said it all, so just jump right in. I do want to note, I guess, first of all, as Jessica mentioned, we had conversations with your member city staff. We had financial working group, RTAG meeting combined last month. A lot of great feedback that we've incorporated and appreciate all the feedback and input from our member cities. So do want to emphasize that our budget is built around our strategic plan. So here's our strategic framework, and all the initiatives really align with all those strategic goals and objectives. And just to walk you through, so the initiative form here, and here's the initiatives that are in your packet. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at these, because as Jessica mentioned, there's a lot of good detail in there kind of explaining what these things are all about. But just to walk you through the forms themselves. So really here, how we lay out the form, we have the initiative number there up in the upper left, and then we have the actual strategic plan goal that it supports there in the middle of the header, and then we have at the left side there below the header, we have the whether it's a combined agency or whether it's Valley Metro Rail or RPTA specific for that initiative. And then over here on the right side, we have whether it's a Valley Metro recommended or new initiative, or whether it's one of those continuing commitments or obligation going forward. So with orientation to the forms, out of the way there. Do want to give you a little orientation. This is very important as far as how we build up our budget. We start with the base budget, which is essentially the current year budget, and then we have the folks from across the divisions take a look at where they might have some underrun and where we can trim back some of that base budget as we start the first step of the budget development process. And then from there, we look at those ongoing obligations, things like inflationary items, ridership impacts, especially on our demand services, ridership definitely impacts costs there. And then those continuing commitments, right? Those things like year-over-year contracts that are continuing and may have some rate increases in them from year to year. And then from there, we add the new or the Valley Metro recommended initiatives to drive the total annual operating budget. So here's a look at that in the actual numbers for the FY26 proposed budget. So you can see here for RPTA, we have about a $14.7 million base reduction. I do want to mention a big portion of that is a reduction of Phoenix operated service from the budget that Phoenix had included in there for the last few years to spend down their PTF JE. So that's been removed from this year as we move it out of 400 into 479 and move away from the JE concept. But there are a number of other items in there as well that save about $3 or $4 million that we were able to eliminate from the current year budget. And then from there, we have those ongoing obligations of about $12.6 million for RPTA. And then the Valley Metro recommended or new initiatives of $2.7 million that result in an overall budget request at this point of $279.5 million for RPTA operations. I do want to give a little breakdown here in terms of the overall increase in the increases year over year. And this is net of not including the base reduction, but it is comprised of 82% of those ongoing obligations, and 18% of that represents the Valley Metro or new initiatives. Also, do want to mention here in terms of the overall operating budget, the total operating budget, so 99% really represents the base budget and all those ongoing obligations, and then 1% of the overall budget is the Valley Metro recommended or the new initiatives. So that's just a breakdown of the proposed budget by those different categories. Now going forward, moving into the operating budget use of funds. So here we have about, as I mentioned, $279.5 million budget. Most of that is made up of the fixed route operations and demand services, our two biggest programs in the operating budget. And then on the sources of funds, the public transportation fund, member city contributions, federal funds and fares being the largest components of funding the operating budget for RPTA.
Ken, excuse me, can you go back
Sure.
to slide 6 for a minute? Or I'm sorry, keep going one more. Okay, so I'm just looking at my PowerPoint, the PowerPoint that was in the TMC packet, and that
Yes.
1%, 99.
Right, that wasn't there.
Part of that, so
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, we did add that after the packet went out. I thought it'd be some additional helpful context to show the new initiatives in the context of the full budget and not just the new initiatives compared to the overall net increase, net of the base reductions. Does that answer it, Jody?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, with no further questions, we'll move on through to the recommended or new initiatives for RPTA. So I do want to mention these are in order of the strategic plan goals, basically the goals from the top down on that graphic for the strat plan. So first, for deliver excellent customer experience, we do have one initiative here, passenger engagement and education. And what this is comprised of, if you can see in the initiative detail sheets, is this is 2 additional customer experience coordinator positions. It's a supervisor of passenger information systems, really to bring together a more comprehensive wayfinding and signage system and program. Right now, it's largely kind of piecemeal. Folks kind of do this as time allows. It's kind of delegated out to a number of individuals. This will really give us a more comprehensive program for wayfinding and signage. Very important as we go into the new two-line system for light rail. And then also, I know we've been looking at some potential looks at the bus signage. I know, as Jody's pointed out, the next ride signs are aging and haven't been maintained, and looking at coming up with potentially new bus signs to use across the system. And then the last piece of this is what we're kind of calling ridership through leveraging the fare collection system. So the new system, this is a marketing effort really to kind of leverage the new technology and some of the fare programs, as well as leveraging potential new programs for our fare system. I'll pause there and see if there's any questions on this one.
The supervisor is the customer, the signage thing is a big thing for me. It's always been a big thing for me. So when you talk about 4,000 wayfinding signs in this, does that include the bus stop signs and the next ride signs? Or is that just 4,000 light rail related signs specifically?
I'll let Caitlin take that question.
Thank you for the question. So those are signage for service changes. So all of our kiosks, posters, GARs, system maps, those don't include the bus stop signage.
So I guess I'm curious because you guys print those signage, but then you send them to the cities to install them. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out like why we need a whole extra person to supervise the printing of the service change signs.
So right now we're relying on contractor support to help with that function. So bringing this in-house would help save money, as well as give us the opportunity to be more proactive and organized through this wayfinding effort. And then also bringing on the next ride signage, looking at that, and the bus stop signage, giving us more bandwidth to do so.
So are you guys planning on keeping the next ride signage? Because when I brought this up 4 years ago and we had a discussion that went nowhere, we were talking about getting rid of the next ride sign in favor of using the app. So
Right.
I guess if we get rid of the next ride sign, what's the point? And like, that takes a big chunk of that out. So I guess what I'd like to have, maybe not here in the details, is at RTAG or something, a more detailed discussion on what is Valley Metro's plan for the bus stop signage and how is that working? And how will these positions work with that?
Sure. Yeah, we're in the beginning stages of working through, like for Next Ride, we have just implemented a customer survey through customer service to get some feedback on Next Ride in the app and maybe what are the barriers to why they're not using the app to help inform.
They're not using Next Ride either because I get a lot of complaints about it because it's not effective. So that gets to be the ongoing discussion on getting rid of that service. That's my goal. I'm just telling you.
Perfect.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Ms. Rowell, I'm trying to think of how we can get this in front of the member cities and what that vehicle is. It could be RTAG. We just did have service finding working group monthly meeting earlier this week. Ken, I don't know if you'll allow me to jump in and add an agenda item to your financial working group meeting on April 15th, but that might be our earliest opportunity to reach a broad spectrum of our member community staff to have this conversation.
Yeah,
Does that satisfy
I
your
would just like to have a conversation on 3 people for signage because when I look at Mesa Sign Shop, we have 8 people. 2 of them actually make the signs and we cover 150 square miles. So 3 people seems like a lot of people for the transit agency.
Understood. Let us develop a response as well as a program overview for financial working group.
Okay.
Or perhaps RTAG because they happen the same day. Yeah.
Even better. Thanks, Ken.
Yes. So one of the things that you mentioned in your preamble, Jessica, is that a good number of these positions are insourcing, that we're shifting from contractors to staff if these were to go through. And so, and I heard that now that some of this work is handled by contractor. And so I was just going to suggest making it more clear when you've got a position recommendation where you're insourcing, where you're bringing someone in, where you're already doing the work, paying for it as a contractor, and then just bringing that in. I think that would be helpful as we go to hear when that's happening.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mario. Yeah, we've had discussions over the last couple of days. We've actually just kind of laid out a document that and we'll be sharing that at our TAG and financial working group as far as here's the list of positions. Here's are the ones that, we'll identify those that are in-source. And as Jessica mentioned, we'll identify those that are really kind of right sizing for expansion on the rail side of things so that folks can kind of clearly see kind of how those line up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess at that point, through this exercise too, do you guys spend time looking at what contracts you may not need anymore that are services, or is it really a matter of just insourcing if it makes sense to insource, and then, those that we're just going to continue to outsource, like through that exercise to insource, do you also consider, maybe we just don't need this anymore?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I can answer that. We do that? It's outside of the annual budget process, but really it's as part of that contract review process, which is ongoing. And we discussed the contract review process in our board retreat last month. This concept of an annual review of the business needs. And that's really, I think, what you're speaking to, Mr. Chair, is the business need. So that's something we've done ongoing. Now we've developed a template or a formula for doing that every year for every contract, which then informs the budget. And those contract owners inside the agency are contributing to the development of that base budget that the finance team produces. So that's really kind of the ground level framework of the budget.
Yeah, I was just thinking as it intersects with Jody's comments and questions about, the need for, 3 versus 2 or whatever the right size is for it. It seems like this exercise is more about insourcing versus continuing to outsource. And then if we're really, honing in on what Jody was suggesting, maybe we have a process for do we need this service at all? And I'm not suggesting one way or the other. It's just kind of.
I think it's a two-part conversation. It's what is the function? What's the best way to resource that from a business perspective? And then does it need to be a discrete position, or can we accomplish that in other ways internally? And this is, I think, as part of our evolution as an organization, these are the conversations we should expect to have. Should we continue to outsource functions like community engagement, which we've typically structured certain functions as if they're really focused on rail expansion projects, but community engagement is something that we need to do across the board outside of just rail expansions. And so with board feedback and member city feedback, I've been working with our team to begin a pivot process. I do think we can do a better job in this packet. Right now, there's just a little asterisk that was added, but really calling out where we're insourcing and what we anticipate that cost savings to be. Is it 100% of the personnel? Is it 120%, or is it maybe 70% of what we're asking for? Will that be offset by a contract? I think we can even go a level deeper and point to the contract. And this is something that I've been working with Ken and Tyler on. They've developed a table to really try to disaggregate those personnel expenses. And we can add another column, I think, that's focused on insourcing, so that we're accounting for that. Of the $2.7 million new initiatives that we're reviewing right now for RPTA, 1.1 million of that dollar figure is new positions. And then of that 1.1 million, a certain amount, and I don't have that amount, but we'll provide it later this month, is insourced positions. Yeah, I think that's important clarification.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Right. Okay, we'll move on. So for the next strategic plan goal, invest in our talent. A couple of initiatives here. The first, the agency staff compensation. That's really a 3.5% overall average merit increase for staff, as well as implementation of the recommendations from the class and comp study. We don't have final figures for the class and comp study and what will be implemented there, but we did put in the budget to ensure we had some budgetary capacity to implement that. We put in some dollars for the RPT and Valley Metro Rail budgets to be able to implement some of those findings from the class and comp. And then also we have some additional HR positions. Obviously Valley Metro has been a growing organization for the last several years. The HR unit really has not grown in pace with that. We're seeing a lot of pains in terms of being able to keep up with HR supporting And they're doing a great job of it. It's just a small group supporting some of those hiring efforts and things like that as the organization continues to grow, and then as we have turnover and bring on new team members. So that initiative would add 4 more HR positions. Any questions on this one?
I don't see any.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. The next strategic plan goal, prioritize security on transit. This one here, one initiative. This is to add a deputy chief of safety and a deputy chief of security on the safety and security team. This is really to provide a more focused management effort over the safety and security programs. Right now, we have Adrian, who's the overall division head, who's got to kind of divert her focus from sometimes safety and sometimes to security. And this would provide her with some folks on her management team that would be able to really have a more focused emphasis on the safety program for the one position and on the security program for the other. Any questions on this one?
Seeing none.
All right. So moving on to the next strategic plan goal, leverage data and technology. A couple initiatives here. Service planning enhancement is adding an additional service planner. Really, as we've grown out our data ability with some of the newer technology, and we have a lot more data available to us. Adding this position will allow us to be more proactive on our service planning efforts. So historically, it's been very reactive. We've kind of reacted to member city inquiries and requests for looking at things in terms of different service changes and looking at data to see where maybe there is some potential need for service changes. And so this additional position would be more proactively diving into that data to take a proactive approach to, looking where, service changes may make sense. And then the second initiative, number 6 there, pretty straightforward, entity useful life replacements. This is really IT hardware and software replacements, just kind of routine end of life replacements for those items. So any questions on this one?
I don't see any.
Okay, so moving on to deliver on stakeholder collaboration, a couple initiatives here, internal communications enhancement. This is a new specialist internal communications position. This would enhance internal communications with both employees and contractors, and specifically focus on those frontline employees who are mostly contractors to make sure that they're hearing from Valley Metro as far as what we're doing, what we have going on. And then I think more importantly, we're hearing from them what they're experiencing out there in the field firsthand with our customers, and getting that information back to Valley Metro leadership to ensure that we can react to what we're hearing and seeing on the ground there with our services. The second item, external stakeholder engagement. This is a position, a supervisor of community engagement. This has been kind of alluded to a little bit already. This is really for capital planning. So this is one that replaces consultant resource. In addition to replacing consultant resources, sometimes you look at the financial piece of it, but it's also having that ongoing historical knowledge that you sometimes lose when you have a consultant do work for you for a period of time. They move on, that contract's over. You don't necessarily retain all the historical knowledge and those relationships in-house. So I think that's a key component of this position as well. So this position would be able to, maintain those relationships and have that historical knowledge, develop and build out public involvement plans going forward into the future. Any questions on this item?
I don't see any.
Okay, and lastly, but of course not least, financial sustainability. A couple of initiatives here. Initiative 11, financial planning and analysis enhancement. This is comprised of a new financial forecasting software. We've been using Excel and Access, Access, for years now to track the TLCP and do financial forecasting. This new software really would allow us to do a more comprehensive tracking in a modern database. And this will do not only the tracking of TLCP, but more broadly, just overall Valley Metro short, mid, and long range forecasting for the agency. Something that really hasn't been done for Valley Metro. And it's kind of a new initiative we're taking on here, looking at recognizing we need to do more, mid and long-term forecasting. We've historically kind of had a budget with a 5-year plan, and we haven't looked much beyond that. And we want to be able to see beyond that to see how things look out in the future, to see if there's any pinch points in the future as we have planned, growth and service enhancements. This also would include help support that, because right now we have a grand total of 1 position that does our financial planning and forecasting and TLCP management. This would add a position, financial, sure.
Sure, just for a minute, I want to add just a bit of color to this conversation. Since Ken Kessler joined us as our Chief Financial Officer, Ken led the development of our agency's first long-range financial plan. Previously, we were forecasting out at a 5-year horizon, and given the nature of our business and our expectation that we're continuing to deliver service over time, Ken and team, with a little bit of external assistance, developed that forecast. It's something that we intend to maintain and iterate every year. It is in an Excel workbook right now. So I commend Ken for developing that. And this is really maturing our financial planning capacity in the interest of financial sustainability.
Thank you for those additional comments. Yeah, and so with the position, again, as I mentioned, we have currently 1 position in the agency that manages all the financial forecasting and all tracking all of the TLCP revenues and expenditures. And as we move on to the Prop 479 era, and as Jessica mentioned, we want to have more of a bigger long-term look at our financial position, having an additional staff to help with that financial planning and analysis work for the agency is really critical for us to make sure that we're keeping the forecast up to date, managing the TLCP appropriately for all the revenues and expenses, recognizing that, MAG is kind of taking over the policy level decisions on the TLCP, but still the accounting for the expenditures and revenues, and looking out to make sure things are balanced and keeping that program balanced lies with Valley Metro. And so it's critical that we have the appropriate resources to do that. And then lastly, we have a financial analyst for contract performance. And this is really to get in there and beef up our efforts with increasing our vendor oversight, managing and analyzing their performance, and working towards making sure we have adequate analysis to hold our vendors accountable to the contractual requirements. And then for the grants coordinator, this would be a new position, really to better coordinate and really be proactive in grant seeking. As it's been, Valley Metro really hasn't had a dedicated resource for, coordinating grants activities in terms of seeking new grants or coordinating with others. Like I know we've gone in on some grants with the city of Phoenix, and it's either been just handed off maybe to a planner with some available time, or in some cases we've outsourced it to a consultant. So this would really focus this position within Alexis's team to really be one out there, seeking grants, and not just our typical, USDOT grants, but looking for other areas where there might be grant opportunities to help us maximize our revenues. So any questions on financial sustainability?
Are there any questions? I do have one stylistic for the overall thing to consider is I'm having a hard time distinguishing between what's program and technology enhancements and the number of positions programmed for each one of these categories. So something potentially to consider for a board presentation is, it does say initiative number. When the numbers were smaller, it looked like sometimes that was positions. And then as they grew, I was like, okay, it's clear to me now that that's initiative number. But then as you talk about these programs, some of them included some technology enhancements, some included some positions. It really wasn't clear how much of that line item you're looking for in those authorities.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can disaggregate the line items and then perhaps not on the slides, but in the board packet, then add those additional columns that I referenced earlier when we talk, because right now we're just segmenting by Valley Metro Rail versus our PTA. And I think we can segment that further by funding stream. So because the color of money does matter, whether we're talking about local, regional, federal capital. So yes, thank you.
Chair, there's a question online.
I see a question from Harold from Avondale.
Yes, and I echo those same sentiments as well in regards to keeping track in regards to whether it's a program, is it software, is it personnel costs. I think it's important to break those things out. The other question I have is looking at some of because it's not clear, some of these amounts for positions, I can only assume they're for positions. Are these a fully burdened rate? Because looking at some of those costs for some of those, what I would assume are positions, they seem pretty low. So just want to get some explanation on that. I think on one of the previous slides, I think it was mentioned there was a position and it was only $34,000. So I think that's where there's some of that confusion potentially, whether it's position, programming, software, whatever the request actually is. So just kind of want to get some clarification on, are those fully burdened rates? Because as you mentioned, they were positions and that seemed pretty low. So I just want to get some clarification.
Sure, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Good point. I just want to point out that right now we're looking at the RPTA, and a lot of these initiatives are both agencies. And so the dollars you're seeing on these slides are just the RPTA share of those costs. So I do want to mention for positions, they are fully burdened, and if there's any equipment involved as well, computers, laptops, anything else, that's also included. In the detail initiative sheets, underneath the write-up, we do have a budgetary or cost table, and that kind of lists out the items in there. And so positions are listed out on those sheets and the detail initiative sheets that are in the packet, not necessarily in the presentation. So that is there. So yeah, so when we get to the VMR presentation for the rail cities, you'll see a lot of these same initiatives with the VMR share of these costs. So
Yeah,
just
so I'm
want to
assuming
clarify
there's greater percentages for VMR, or they're split within a specific percentage based upon how much of their time and effort they're going to spend on each one of those areas, correct?
that. Yes.
Thank you.
Mario.
So just a quick question on the grants coordinator. First, a comment. I highly value a position like that. I think they can pay for themselves many times over if they're successful at bringing those grants in. But I guess the question has to do with timing and whether there's any concern about with all the pauses with grants, particularly at the federal level, and if that's a concern with this position right now.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Mario. Yeah, good point in that. I think that exact same point came up at the RTAG Financial Working Group meeting. And Alexis did mention that for this position would likely kind of not necessarily fill it right away. We got to wait for some things to kind of shake out and see exactly where things are at the federal level as well as other things. But this is a position that likely we wouldn't be filling, July 1. We'd probably, wait a while to see how things shake out. And I think Alexis has some additional comments.
The other side. Thank you. I just wanted to add that color is part of what we're planning with this position, if it is approved, is to see what that landscape looks like. Currently, we are still seeing our grants that have not yet been obligated continue to move through the process. We also know that in the next couple of days, if not in the next week, there'll be more NOFOs being released as a contingent on what was approved in the continuing resolution that Congress just passed last month. So we continue to see movement. My concern more, honestly, at this point is making sure that we have the resources to help coordinate at FTA and in the agencies because of the rifts that are also happening. Not to say that we won't continue to move forward on grant seeking opportunities. We certainly will. It's making sure we have the resources in-house to be able to help coordinate with our member cities when we're seeking this, because we're going to have to wear a little bit of patience pants, if you will, lack of a better way of saying it, of getting responses from some federal agencies who may be short-staffed currently. But to Ken's point, I think what I'm hoping to see with this within 3 to 5 years is having all of that in-source. We may still, in the short run, some big projects like bus and bus facilities or even low nose, which continue to be, we know are going to continue to come based upon the continuing resolution, that we may still need consultant help. But the goal here is within 3 to 5 years is being able to do that all in-house, working with our member agencies, not having to contract out or grant writing, coordination or strategy.
Thank you.
Rosa.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Ken. I know you have a really tough job, especially in this climate right now that we're all in. So please recognize that these questions shouldn't feel like it's something against you. You have a really tough job. And I want to thank you and Tyler and Jessica and Alexis for meeting with Tempe yesterday and the team and just reiterating our concerns was 21 positions is a lot. You know, when cities are downsizing or trying to freeze vacant positions and trying to do everything we can to make sure we stretch the dollars. So I appreciate Jessica stating that you're going to come back, sharpen pencils to look at if there could be phasing. And then I think to Alexis' point, looking at the overlay of the strategic plan that I know that you all have worked on, to Jody's point. So if we're adding a position, how is this going to advance the needle in that specific area that we're trying to accomplish? Obviously, there's been a lot of improvements in the 2 years I've been in this role. We talked about safety, which I'm glad to see the positions or at least some of addressing those safety concerns that we have for our ridership. And then the second thing is we need to pay people what they deserve to be paid. So I was really glad to see the class and comp for the employees of Valley Metro. It's imperative, right? And people are struggling. So we want to make sure that people are getting compensated fairly. Just asking to look at the 21 positions and then the overlay really where, like to Alexis' point, are we going to sunset some positions eventually, or is this trying to get us to an outcome that we've all discussed kind of throughout the year? And just connecting those dots for us would be very important for Tempe. So thank you, Ken and the staff.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members, yeah, Rosa, thank you for those comments. Yeah, I mean, we do really recognize the situation the members are in. Obviously, the residential rental tax is a big deal for everybody. Just ongoing, what's up with the economy? Are we going to have a recession? Are tariffs going to, send the economy down in a spiral? What's going on? There's a lot of uncertainty that we all deal with. And especially in my position in the financial world, it's ongoing. Don't take any of the questions or anything personal for sure. I know it's just business. I've been on the other side of the table for many years and asked many of those same questions. So I get it. And yeah, we want to be mindful of the city's, fiscal situations and trying to balance a growing organization with some of those fiscal challenges and trying to come to a compromise that works for all of us, for sure. Okay, move on. Just a few things left here in the RPTA presentation. The RPTA obligations. So here is a summary of those continuing commitments and inflationary or ridership items. Number of things here, bus service rate increases. We have year-over-year contract rate increases for our bus service. Demand service, same thing. We have contracts that have year-over-year rate changes. We do have an increase in our fuel estimate for FY26. And then the van pool program is growing. That most of that is really driven by the growth of the program and the vehicle types that the participants are choosing. And that program is funded with federal funds and the participants' fares. So any questions on the ongoing obligations?
I don't see any questions.
Okay, so move on to the capital program very quickly. The RPTA capital program uses regional fleet and debt service being the main two programs there. Do want to mention this debt service on the books for FY26 will be the last debt service we see with the sunset of the Prop 400 sales tax. Our debt was set to be paid off before the end of Prop 400. So this will be our last debt service payment in FY26. And then on the sources for the capital program, PTF and federal funds, by and large, fund most of the capital program. And then our pass-throughs, so the uses here, pass-throughs include, as you all know, all the employees of the agency are RPTA employees, but a lot of effort is spent on the Valley Metro Rail side. So those are passed through to Valley Metro Rail. We also have some lottery funds, about $11 million each year that we pass through to member cities for a variety of transit uses. And then there's the sources on the pass-throughs, about $145.8 million for next fiscal year. Now we'll look briefly at the 5-year forecast for RPTA. So on the operating program, we have about a $1.8 billion program. Funding sources primarily supporting that are the PTF, member city contributions being the two largest there. And then on the uses, the 5-year operating program, obviously our services, fixed route and demand services are the two largest programs on the use side. Any questions on the 5-year program?
I don't see.
Okay, and then the 5-year capital program, about a $400 million program, again, supported largely by PTF and federal funds on the source side. And on the uses, regional fleet continues to be the biggest program there. We'll continue to have some rail program disbursements in the near term. We'll still have some Prop 400 monies that will be going over from RPTA to VMR for the capital extension, which is the last Prop 400 rail capital project for Prop 400. And then there'll be some ongoing rail program disbursements as we go into Prop 479 for some smaller state of good repair items. Any questions on the 5-year capital program?
I don't see.
Okay. And then just to recap of where we're at here with the budget process. So having the detailed discussion here with the committees and the board this month, looking to come back in May for adoption of the FY26 budget. Happy to answer any additional questions.
Are there any other additional questions? Yes, Jody.
Ken, I'm sorry, I just noticed this, and this is just a curiosity question. On the 5-year operating sources and uses, member city contribution in fiscal year 29 goes way down, and then fiscal year 30, it goes way back up again. What's causing that fluctuation? What are you forecasting to cause that fluctuation?
Honestly, Jody, I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know, Tyler. Yeah, we'll have to get back on that one. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions. Just a reminder, this information was presented for information only. Item 4, report of current events and suggested future agenda items. Does anyone have any? All right, seeing none, the next meeting is Wednesday, May 7th at 11 a.m. And with that, the Transit Management Committee is adjourned.
I get out my papers. Okay, we'll call the April Rail Management Committee meeting to order. The consent agenda is presented for action. Does anybody have any questions on items 1 through C on the consent agenda?
Chair, I've got one quick question on item 1C. The packet talks about the need for the cameras and from a maintenance perspective, the need to replace these old cameras. I was just curious from a security perspective, does this offer any improvement? If you're on the security team, are you excited about these cameras being replaced?
I'm going to invite Mr. Curry and Mr. Rosenberg to the podium to answer that question. While Mr. Curry is joining us, I do want to tell you this is really part of our overall transit asset management program, is defining the life cycle of assets, ideally replacing them until the useful life of these assets purchased with federal funds. Even though new tech is available, we have to exhaust the federal interest, as you know. And so we've defined about a 20% replacement rate per year. Each of those replacements will include the latest and greatest technology. So it's not everything all at once. Financially, that would be difficult to pull off. But Mr. Curry, can you speak to the specific functionality of the new technology relative to the technology that's becoming obsolete? I know there are some opportunities there. And maybe speak to Live Lookin' while you're at it.
Chair, members. Yeah, so a couple things. One, we're also going through CEPTED. And so we're going to take the results from that. That will also impact the types of cameras, locations, line of sight. So that'll all be included. Right now, what we're replacing is majority through the original alignment. The new cameras will be all of our facial recognition, different things like that is all going to be on the back end. So the new cameras that are coming in are capable of accepting that, but it doesn't lock us into proprietary. This is really a build out, as Jessica said, that we're going to move to about roughly 20, figure cameras about a 5-year design life. So we'll be roughly scheduling 20% every year. And so that'll keep us up to date and moving with technology. And as Jessica stated, some of the other things we're looking at is to give us more capabilities, more specifically in the rolling stock, but it's a big picture of some live feed potentials. So with the technology advancing along with SEPTED and working with safety and security, and knowing that we are now sharing a lot of the camera feeds with our different police departments. So we're working in conjunction with our partners as we plan this out.
Great. Glad to hear that it's going to accomplish some enhancement to security and our abilities there. So thank you, fully supportive. And with that, I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Item number 2, the Valley Metro Rail fiscal year 26 preliminary operating and capital budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll invite Mr. Kessler to the podium once again to provide a presentation of the current draft of the FY26 operating budget. This operating budget request is $118.9 million. Unlike our PTA, which was relatively constant year over year, this does include an increase of $21 million, which is roughly 21% relative to our FY25 operating budget. This is primarily due to the anticipated opening of the South Central Extension, which we are planning for 12 full months of operation in FY26. We also have new contract rates, which include ACI, our rail operator, as well as Intercon, the new security provider that the board authorized just last month. Also utility rate increases, and that is electrical service, of course, and insurance. We're also proposing new positions, and that's what Mr. Kessler is going to describe here for you.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Madam Chair, members of the committee, we don't need to go through these same slides we had for our PTA. As a matter of fact, for the board, I think we'll take those out. Do want to go through this one though, because it says the actual numbers relative to Valley Metro Rail. Again, the budget build up the base, those ongoing obligations plus the new initiatives. About a $1.4 million reduction in the base budget. From there, the ongoing obligations total about $18.3 million. And then the Valley Metro recommended new initiatives of about $4.1 million for a total of $118.9 million budget. Here's the breakout between those increased categories, the new initiatives and the obligations. About 82% of that are those obligations, 18% represent the initiatives. And then of the overall budget, new initiatives represent about 3%, where the overall remainder of the budget is about 97%. So on the operating program, uses of funds, light rail at $107.1 million, streetcar $8.1 million, and agency operating at $3.7 million for FY26. As Jessica mentioned, representing about a 21% overall increase due to the items that she had indicated already. So on the sources side, the operating program largely supported by member city contributions and fair revenues. And so diving into the Valley Metro recommended initiatives, this one was also on the RPTA, so this is just the VMR share. And we can see here the $448,000 is respective to the VMR budget. And then for invest in our talent, the agency staff compensation item here about $1.9 million in change is the VMR share of that item. And then for prioritized security on transit, The deputies over safety and security, the VMR share, about $312,000. On leverage data and technology, these two items here, about $305,000 total for these two initiatives, representing the Valley Metro Rail share. Now we do get to some initiatives that are new for Valley Metro. So 7 and 8 are just the VMR share of those same initiatives that we discussed at RPTA. 9 here, this is Capital Development Project Manager. And you might ask, why is there a 0 there? And the answer is, this is the operating budget. And so this position is wholly funded by the capital budget. So this is just representing the addition of the FTE into our overall FTE count. But the position is fully funded by the capital program. This position specifically will manage and oversee and plan for the system enhancements and improvements projects, things like our state of good repair needs and other improvements projects that are on the capital side. Any questions on that item?
Just out of curiosity, you had an employee that recently left that was an engineer. That sounds a lot like that person's position. So how is this differ than that?
I'll ask Trevor to come take that one.
You talking about Pat?
No.
Oh.
Laura.
Laura, so Laura's position as manager of design and engineering, we envision this would be a reporting person to her. We are recruiting for that vacant position. So this isn't a manager. She oversees public art. That position oversees public art, JOC, general consulting support services. This is really a focused project management position on state of good repair, SEPTED. What we're having issue with is a lot of our project management function is focused on expanding and growing the system. And where we need more engine, quite frankly, is some of these projects that are focused on the existing system.
Okay.
And we do that through a combination of when they have time or I consult it out, having that dedicated function focused on SEPTED, focused on these other things. At the end of the day, it'll be more efficient. And at the end of the day, I'll be growing that institutional knowledge and this very important function of making the existing and enhancing the existing system, not just expanding it. So that, yeah. Hope that clarifies.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Ms. Sorrell, this position, so this is an in-source function as well, because we are doing a lot of those non-rail expansion projects externally. This is also indicative of the point in the life cycle of our organization. Our capital program has historically been focused around rail system expansion. And while we're continuing to invest in rail system expansion, we also must invest in the maintenance, state of good repair, enhancement of our existing rail system, as well as non-rail projects.
All right. So, moving on, number 10 here, this initiative under operational excellence. A few items that comprise this. First is the increase in the art maintenance budget, $50,000 over the years. Obviously, the original and existing art is aging and needs a little more attention. And obviously, as we expand and grow the system, there's more art out there to maintain. So it's just a matter of the math that, there's additional resources and funding needed. And again, this is just budgetary. This is not an actual position, just those additional financial resources to be able to maintain the existing art. There's also a pressure washer position and the necessary equipment for that. So as you recall, last year, we brought on 3 pressure washer positions into the budget that took away some positions from a contracted service. So this then further brings that in-house, as well as recognizing the expansion of the system, need additional resources for this work. And as well, this will give us a little more around the clock and proactive pressure washing capabilities than just kind of more reactive. And then lastly, there's a traction power team being proposed here. This would be adding a manager and 3 supervisor positions to oversee traction power. Currently, we don't have this structure in place. There's, I believe, 1 supervisor that kind of oversees all the traction power. That's one supervisor for, nearly a 24/7 operation. Obviously, not enough resources there for that. Happy to take any questions on this initiative.
Again, just out of curiosity, one of the things that we've talked a lot over the past couple of years is the positions that are salary challenged, I guess, that we're salary challenged in the market to meet are these technical positions. So I know the class and comp study seemed to focus more on the positions, the salaries for these positions. So do these salaries reflect what was come from the class and comp study, or are these the current salary expectations?
I don't know.
It's current, yeah. Since we haven't implemented or.
So then the class and comp study could raise these salaries.
Yeah, the class and comp study could move these, yeah.
It would. I'll tell you, Mr. Rell, Mr. Chair, of the recommendations emergent from the classification and compensation study, which we're still working through and we're nearly there. The lion's share of the resources dedicated to positions in the skilled trades that are hard to fill, where we are maintaining in some instances upwards of a 30% vacancy rate.
All right, so moving on for financial sustainability, this one as well, same as RPTA, just the VMR share of the cost at $157,000. Okay, now moving on to the obligations under the VMR budget. Oh, I think I did that a second time. Okay, a number of items here. Of note, security increase, obviously the growing system, adding South Central, the South Central operations as well is a big ticket item there, as we have a full year of South Central operations built into the 26 budget. The contract rate increase for our rail transportation contract, and as well some utilities increases that we're forecasting for FY26. Any questions on the obligations? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the capital program. So uses of funds for our capital program, capital extension, state of good repair and future project development, the three largest programs for FY26. And the sources supporting that program, by and large, again, federal funds and public transportation funds. And then we'll move on to the 5-year forecast for Valley Metro Rail. On the operating side, about a $637 million operating program for the next 5 years. Obviously on the sources, member city contributions and fares being the vast majority of the sources that support that program. And then looking over on the, obviously the uses side, the O&M security being the biggest items on the use side. Capital program for Valley Metro Rail, about a $1 billion program over the next 5 years, largely supported by federal funds and member city contributions as we transition away from public transportation funds for the rail extensions. Still have a little bit of PTF in there for some of the state of good repair type items moving forward into Prop 479. And then on the uses side, capital extension and Rio East Dobson being a big part of the 5-year program going forward. Any questions on the 5-year capital program? Okay, seeing none. Here's just a recap of those budget dates. That concludes my presentation, and happy to take any additional questions. Thank you.
Sorry. Item number 3, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Do we have any? Nope. Okay, so the next meeting of the Rail Management Committee is Wednesday, May 7th at 11 o'clock. Thank you.